My dear brother bishops here present, our PS for social services, Sir Joseph Ubari, our delegates from all over our AMECEA countries and beyond, ladies and gentlemen. First, on behalf of the Bishop Chairman of AMECEA, and also on behalf of Archbishop Chairman of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, allow me to also welcome you. We've already been welcomed by our PS to the country. I also welcome you on behalf of our Chair, Archbishop Maurice Muheria Makumba, and also invite you to reflect deeply, not just listen, but reflect as we aborde this topic of inspiring faith action for care reform. A lot has already been said, so allow me just to make some brush strokes. What I intend to do is not so much make a reflection that is deep or conclusive, but just to provoke whatever discussions you're going to have, provoke our thought even in assessing what has happened already in the various pilot programs, and especially to map out what is realistically possible and reasonable within our culture, within our understanding of our faith, and finally within the timelines that perhaps are put to us by the legal authorities, the law that is within our country and also globally. So I would just touch on a few points. First, I would like to emphasize what is the base and pillar upon which we must always consider this reform. Children are a gift from God. At the center of all the Catholic Church's interventions in all the social issues, all the social actions that we are part of, is the principle of upholding the human dignity of the human person. This must always be the point of departure for any discussion to enhance, to redesign, to move forward. What moves us to intervene in all things that relate to the human living together, social fiber, social fabric, issues that arise from social ills, issues that we want to perhaps uplift. The first consideration we must always have: how am I enhancing, addressing the human dignity of the person who is a subject, and the human dignity of the persons who might not be direct subject but are in some collation or relation with this subject. So this is a point of departure for assessment of any design or program, to ensure that whatever action is proposed, that we proposed, enhances the human dignity of the person involved and safeguards it. So our aim is not efficiency, but dignity. And at times, dignity can be quite inefficient. And so we must be careful that we are not captured by just the good look, and yet the dignity is undermined. This, for example, are part of the things that we've heard said about institutions that look very good, but inside the children's dignity is actually undermined. But they could be the other way too, that we may put this solution in a framework that seems excellent and good and efficient, but at the same time undercutting the dignity of the person. So the tremendous social ills that abound in society today that have led so many children to suffer this brand come from issues that are beyond the children and at times even beyond the family. The ills of poverty first, we've already referred to it now here, that affects the children who strive to survive. Poverty pushes children out to survive. And they seek many times unworthy avenues just to survive. So the survival mode is something we must understand within our society. And you will not understand survival mode until you spend a bit of time interacting in slums. And I hope that when we speak about these discussions, we also have practicals. I'm happy to hear the PS has time to visit the elderly. I still recall my first visit to the slum. I was in university, I was in second year, and we used to go every weekend to the slums of Mukuru, the one near Kariobangi, Sokomjinga, and that actually formed my understanding of what poverty really means. Because most of us think poverty is just our neighbor who doesn't have cows, until you see the minimum that they don't have. They don't have toilet, they don't have space, they don't have water, they don't have bed, and they don't have education. So I think it's important that we align ourselves also with the reality on the ground. Breaking down of the family unit. This is an issue that is not so easy to address. It has been said, dysfunctional families. Why are families dysfunctional? And what does dysfunctional mean? Because there are all kinds of dysfunctional families, and the effect that immediately they have on the children. If you put a child in a family that they are fighting, in a family that the father is a drunkard, what do you expose this child to? Or the family of a mother who is misbehaving, how does that happen? Or in a family that generally are a family of thieves. I don't think they are a family normally of thieves, but there are families who have. So it's important that we assess what we understand by dysfunction. Sometimes the dysfunction is very nicely laid out in the lines of social studies, anthropology. I think we have to have a very clear, on the ground feel of what it means. Domestic violence. We had this during the corona time, COVID. A spike in domestic violence. Domestic violence affects the children directly and affects them indirectly. And domestic violence is not only the sexual violence, it is physical violence, it's psychological violence, it is violence that also is from the society around. If your father is not a good man and your mother is not a good man, you suffer it without necessarily, by surrogate suffering, if you wish. It just spills over to the children. So these things are, I think, issues we should study when we are speaking about the dignity and the social ills that lead the children to be outside. So the question we should be asking, and I propose to you to reflect, are our streets safe? And that you say, okay, for street children, no. For normal children, for disability children, for special need, for autistic children, for children who are slow learners. Are our schools safe? Are our families safe? Why is the safety guaranteed? And so, in the think of those who are before us, they had a way of guaranteeing that safety. So how do we enhance? And safety of its own is not the good we seek, but safety which enhances the dignity. So this reflection, focusing on the places of safety without at the same time losing sight that that safety we know is a natural place of it is a family, but at times we have to calibrate and see when is it safe enough and enhancing enough of dignity in this environment or the other. So here I'm just throwing these ideas to ask, where is the dignity most imparted? Dignity is given, dignity is enhanced, dignity is nurtured, self-esteem. Where will it come out best? Where will it blossom? And sometimes it blossoms. I read the other day that some fathers prefer to hold the child as he's riding a bicycle, and they run with the child and they don't let go. And so they put the bicycle with the extra 2 wheels so the child doesn't fall. So safety is so important for him, so the child never learns how to ride. But a father who knows that the child must learn will hold the child and then at a moment push. And there's a risk of safety, but the child then learns to ride. So where are we? Where is the balance between the two? And I think this is not an easy discussion. I think that's why we're here to discuss, to learn, and find the right balance. Because sometimes we can get a pendulum that goes on one side and sanctifies and sanctions one, like they did in the past. Now we go to the other side, sanction and sanctify, but we are not really considering what is the right balance. Second point, the primacy of children for us in church, in Jesus' ministry, that this is a central interest for us. And our interest should not be just merely negative. Many times we speak about children with disability, children who are extremely vulnerable, children. Let's also remember the positive, affirmative and formative aspect of these children. That we also say, how can we enhance the dignity of every single child? We were just told shortly that every child matters and that we are caring for all. But how do we make sure that in our frameworks, we may use that, the child actually, any child will blossom? So what is it we must do, not only to protect the ones who might be in an environment that are perhaps threatening, but how do we create a bigger environment that will make any child blossom? And that's why in the third point we speak about what are we going to address in the family. So it is not only about the negative, because we all know that is in the foundational stages that we give, those early stages that we can give foundational ideas, outlook. The child will learn the deep convictions, and that is where we can instill the noble values, increasing citizenry, godliness and goodness. Godliness and goodness both come together. So that is where we are speaking about faith, about charity, about care, about compassion, about mercy, about honesty, about service. All these are a mix we must sell. Now, since our children are our first subject, how do we make the environment that we are bringing? Because we are interested as church not only in building very holy, pious people, but holy, noble, hardworking, and good citizens. Because the two don't go, they don't separate. Primacy of Jesus' ministry. We want to emphasize that Jesus did not only tell these people about the heavenly connection, the Father, he also gave them food. He also took care of them. He was interested in challenging their scope and their ways, their habits. So that too must be an entire mix together in whatever we give. That in the ministry we as church, we are convinced in carrying out Jesus' ministry that we must do both human and spiritual, and the two must work together. Again, this balance is important because what are we nurturing more in an institution and what are we nurturing in a family? Is this going to work? It is true. Orchids grow, the most valuable flower grows on rottenness. See, okay? It's actually growing on rottenness. So it's true. Even in very bad institutions or very bad families, you're going to get orchids. But at the same time, toxicity destroys whatever you try to grow. So you must have some kind of measure without condemning. The question is, are institutions of themselves evil? Are institutions of themselves totally to be excluded? Is that a goal that enhances us? Or are we thinking of emphasizing the key point, which is the family, as we are going to say now, but not as a goal specifically, but as how can we emphasize what is original so that we can enhance the dignity? So the third point is that the family, we understand, is the primary unit responsible for child care. So we must seek, therefore, here ways, discuss, how do we repair, improve, reinforce the environment of the family for the child to properly grow there. Our attention must be to assess families and assist families. In the assessment, there may be families that cannot work. Then what? I think that's something we have to face. So we try to assist so that the family be the adept place to help and nurture our children. So the question would be, are families prepared to receive the children? Is it just financial? Or is it, for example, an autistic child or a child with mental disability? Are the families prepared? What does it mean to prepare them? And will they care for them? I have a bad story. 2 children from one of our institutions, it is a mentally disabled institution, were reintegrated in their families. It's a poor family, they're in poor families, they have, let's just say they're poor families. The father is all over the place, the mother is trying to survive. She cannot stay with in these two families, both families. They cannot stay with their child, their daughter, who is mentally handicapped. So 1 year after reintegration, the child, she's with child. She's pregnant. And you don't know who. One of the guys in that homestead. Then you ask, was it the right thing we did? I had that problem. Did I do the right thing? Did we do the right thing? To let that child go there? Was there preparation? Was the mother able? Is there capacity? Now, sometimes you see we do things more led by idealistic. We should go down to practical. When we reinstate, and I think that's why I feel these care reforms are something of discussion and a bit deeper than just superficial, deciding it is A or B as if out. I think it is something that we have to really walk and deepen and make mistakes and return and come back and make second mistakes and then find finally a balance. So the main concern, how do you tutor and nurture families to make families worthy environments? How to make, first, marriage a stable setting. Currently in our country, it's very difficult to get married. I say it's very difficult. Right now, there was 2 days ago, we are doing that as pastors, but government makes it more and more difficult. You have to get the registrar. So people have stopped getting married. So the marriage becomes a very amorphous. So how can we emphasize the marriage institution? And also we, the Kenyans, or even in Africa, have lightened the idea of going for a formal marriage, say be in church or for that sake in registration. People will come, you stay is becoming kinda okay, they say nowadays. It kinda okay, yeah, and they finish it there. How can we work to make the institution of marriage more emphasized and easier and more protected? How can we give a better legal underpinning? How can we encourage families to give dedication to their family time? Because it's the same, quality family time. What can we do with families to help fatherhood, which is one thing and is becoming an extinct reality, fatherhood and parenting. How do we help? So when we speak about family, what are we going to do to make sure families become worthy receptors of this challenge we're going to give to them? Conflict resolutions in families. They are fighting. In our past, in our culture, there were ways. Now, how do we solve the conflicts between husband and wife or between two families? What are we going to do? You may say it is not within our scope, but it's within our scope because if we don't solve that, that's where the source of the problems comes. And secondly, it renders them incapacitated to receive and be worthy places to nurture those things we say we want to nurture in the children. How do we support the special needs? I have the example of autism. Many children of autism, of the poor people, they don't know what to do. They are tired. The child have worn them out. They are looking for someone to send that child so that they can take a 2-month break. And I can understand them. They just run to the ground. Why? They don't know how to handle them. It's too expensive to handle them. They can't go to a speech therapist. So how do we, it's not just about money, it's about structures to support those who have difficulty. We as church, commitment of the church, we commit to this. And I think this is what maybe we as bishops and we as church should think also, supported by our partners. How can we work towards strengthening the family? Because we must sharpen our surveillance on families to ensure the child is cared for. And how? Because we must be more preventive than remedial. Too much the institutions about remedial. The problem is the children are in the streets, let's put them in a space. But why did they go to the street? The mother was in this, why can't we go fast to heal the source? Because this one you put in institution, you get another one coming out. So how do we change our perspectives from being just reactive in terms of remedial, to make it more preventive? How do we avoid separations of children from their families? And I think we have that, we as church, challenge, and I think it's something we can discuss, because I don't know the answer. I'm just throwing it there. I'm throwing it to you for thought, discussion, and perhaps bring out some ideas that we can take up. By extension, we must care for other environments that are also children environments. Our schools. The focus on our schools has changed a lot from formative to just academic. The reason the Catholic Church was involved in education from the beginning was a formative aspect. That's why everyone says, I went to a Catholic school, they were so good. I would not be who I am if it wasn't from the school, because I was formed. Right now, with a population of 1,800 students in a school, with one headmaster, one principal, 2 deputies, and God knows, the formative aspect, they don't even know the names of the students. They don't know. So we are saying formative. That's why we are now going to the preventive, to the remedial situations. There is fire here, there is strikes here. So how do we stop strikes? We have put a lot of cameras in our schools. Every place has got CCTV. That's our way of reacting. We are not reacting about forming. We are reacting about policing. So we also in this discussion can end up being police, women and men, so that the child is not hurt, abused, rather than trying to form the child to be what God wanted them to be. So that's a discussion to have. Our books, the children, what books are being read in the primary school, in the secondary school, in their literature? What are they being taught from the early ages? And that is not irrelevant. It is very relevant, because in that's where they form their initial ideas. So if they believe that men are evil, God forbid, from when they are small, those kids will not ever love their father. If they believe that mummies are the only ones who know, those kids will remain at a baby level. So, I'm not giving examples that are not quite there. Digital. How do we, this environment of digital, how do we form them Care. We know about all these cyber pests, those who wait for the kids on the cyber. So what are we going to do about it so that this environment is better? TV, music, the two, music and idols and pop idols. How are we going to manage that? Because that is also an area that is influencing our children. And then finally, the collaboration between church and state and non-state actors. Church, state, non-state actors. We really must reflect how we must have this collaboration. And the main difficulty is to find the right platform that we can talk at the same level, common good, value of person. And I think here, having all those representatives, and I think CRS also working on that, if we are able to discuss and have that bottom line, and not just statistics, because unfortunately, state actors, that means government, love statistics to say what is happening, and NGOs get money because of statistics, so they love a lot of statistics. Let's get away from the statistics. Let's speak about the values, and many times they are not easily measurable. So if we can have the same level, we can work together. I think it is about having a common. So often care for children is seen in perspective of crime, legal, organizational, depersonalized views, where it's more about, careful. We are going to make sure that anyone who does anything to a child is going to go for a 15-year jail. Good, but that doesn't do any good to the child. Can we have a platform where we are really caring? So I love the title, Care Reform. So it's not so much about the reform, how I wish we would also speak a lot about whether really the care is care. So let's expand that discussion, and whether we are speaking about the same point of departure in terms of care. So we therefore must not only think about the needs of the child, the clothing, the food, the shelter. So we must be a little more practical than idealistic. Let's not remain at good ideas, good plans, things they have worked out in UK, things they have. Let's just think about ourselves having this. What is most practical in our backyard? Nyeri. What can I do in Nyeri that works? That's my diocese. Yeah. So care reforms, and I conclude, in my view, I humbly ask, and your reflection on this, I believe that care reforms must be fundamentally about attitude. How do we address attitudes in families, in people, in leaders, in those who are somehow involved with the children? How we can change mindset from mere material provision, from mere safety to dignity, to nurturing, formative, blossoming. And third, to a true conversion of hearts, especially of our parents, families, and of leaders. That we must avoid making the disability or vulnerability of children a currency for politics. And I hope I'm forgiven when I say that. We must not make this statistical for political visibility. It must be something we truly change, and not just something we give as window dressing. For us, our church, we know is the right perspective. We have the right perspective, and we know that because it's a reflection about how that we can make that child blossom into be the image and likeness of God. And our role is to restore dignity where he has been deprived, distorted, crushed, and also to nurture where it is yet to blossom within the scope of what they are able to And that dignity is not a material value, not measured by material, but measured by something within and deeper. So carry this conversation to that level, and I think you might have very good suggestions for us, especially we, the church leadership, to then reflect and see what must we change in our direction and orientation so that that which we feel is a call that God gives us in this moment can be realized. Thank you very much. God bless you.
That's really a message to think about as we reflect over this issue on care reform this week. A number of fundamental questions for reflection. Let's really give them chance and come out with answers that will satisfy our leadership. So I wanted us to appreciate in a special way His grace for the presentation, and I wanted you to do it in a Malawian way. The way we respect elders. You know, you hold the hand like that, and you do slowly.